I'm not sure what triggered this reflection. It might have been something I saw written on the Catholica forum in the last few days. I've been drawn to reflect on the value of mottos. You know, the sort of things written under the crests of our schools and universities. I have 4 significant mottos associated with schools, colleges, and the university I attended as a young person. What I've been pondering is how much influence they have had on my life. As I look back on my life, I think they may have had a substantial influence. Mind you, I'm not sure if I'm a bit of a weird bod in taking them seriously, as I suspect for many people they are neither here nor there. There are many places in my life I've been associated with that had various mottos, and I think I've forgotten them all. But these 4, though, have stuck in my mind for some reason. The funny thing is that even though my beliefs and outlook on many things in life have changed, and sometimes quite dramatically, these 4 mottos have remained as some sort of guiding light. I do believe they encapsulate some profound truth or insight. The first is from the Jesuit school at Claremont in Western Australia that I attended in my late primary and early secondary years. The motto of St. Louis Jesuit School was Altiora Peto, seek higher things. The school property is now a retirement village, and the school itself was amalgamated with Loreto Convent Girls' School in the early 1970s to form John the 23rd College, where my own children were educated. Curiously enough, when I began pondering this question of mottos yesterday, I couldn't at first recall the motto for St. Louis School. It was the last of the 4 that came back to me. And again, curiously, the first bit I remembered was the Latin Altiora Peto. I had to do a Google search for the translation, and then its meaning came back to me. Seek higher things, or I seek higher things. It's a very Jesuitical motto, isn't it? In a sense, though, I can see that my entire life has been some sort of quest to seek higher things. It even is involved in what I'm doing here at Catholica. I actually ended up running away from the Jesuits 3 times, and eventually my parents moved me to the Christian Brothers College, Aquinas, across the river at Salter Point on the Canning River. Actually, there was a convenient excuse to move me because it was proposed at that time that the boarding school at St. Louis would close. So there was a small group of us who moved from the care of the Jesuits to the Christian Brothers at around the same time. Aquinas has a pretty standard Christian Brothers crest. It serves as a model for many of the schools they established around the world. The motto, though, was Veritas Vincit, truth conquers. I had no trouble remembering that one. Again, I perceive it has had a pretty profound influence on my life, albeit that I think speaking the truth can also be a pretty costly pursuit. There's a lot of people in the world I have found who do not like plain talk or the truth. Politicians and even church leaders are often highly adept at speaking in riddles where the truth is disguised. Sandro Magister, the conservative critic of Pope Francis, is sounding off in his latest commentary at the way Pope Francis talks in riddles. I can certainly understand why Francis is forced to speak in the ways he does at present when you read what Sandro Magister writes. From secondary school, I was fortunate enough to win a scholarship to study physics at the University of Western Australia. was the first in my wider paternal family to attend a university. I wasn't one of the best students the university ever had, but managed to scrape through my degree. I felt enormously proud. No, that's not the right word. Privileged is probably better, to be part of that magnificent campus and community. The motto of the university is Seek Wisdom. No fancy Latin there, but a plain piece of pretty profound wisdom in English. In a sense, I continue to believe the seeking of wisdom is the highest or noblest of the human ambitions. It's far more valuable than the mere pursuit of knowledge or money or power. It's the seeking of wisdom that leads us to wholeness or roundedness as individuals. That's a key theme in the book I've been reading by Ilia Delio in recent weeks, Making All Things New. It's the first book in a new series she's writing, Catholicity in an Evolving Universe. Now there's a dame who I believe is filled with deep wisdom in what she writes. I find her insights inspiring. While studying at UWA, for my first 2 years I resided at the Catholic Residential College, St Thomas More College. At that time it was run by the Jesuits, and my second encounter with the Jays was far more successful and influential than the first. I became so attracted to the Ignatian way of looking at the world that for a considerable period in my adult life I deliberately sought out Jesuit parishes in which to live. Many decades later, after living in Melbourne for nearly 2.5 decades, and I returned to Perth, the St Thomas More Chapel again became my regular Mass centre. I find Jesuit sermons tend to be packed with enormous wisdom and insight. About 15 years ago, I wrote a small book based around the theme of the motto for St Thomas More College, Prius Dei Servus, serve God first. Another curious thing I find today is that even though my entire understanding of who this mystery we label as God is has changed profoundly, I continue to believe there was huge wisdom in that motto. The motto is taken from St Thomas More, and funnily enough I named my first company in honour of More, or his book Utopia. My business was named Utopian Productions. Before that I made a small nameplate, Utopia, and placed it over the front door of our first apartment in Melbourne. I think I've thought of every home I've lived in or owned as a utopia. This Catholica endeavour, which has been the focus of the life of myself and my wife for the past 10 years, is in a very real sense an attempt to continue to live out that motto, Prius Dei Servus. Funnily enough though, the older I get, the less certain I become about who God is and the precise nature of the relationship we are called to have with this unseen and untouchable power or presence that I perceive resides at the alpha and omega points of life. Once upon a time I perceived God primarily in terms of the alpha point, the creator of life. The alpha and omega symbols I incorporated into the logo I created for Catholica initially were merely some kind of artistic or creative tweak without much meaning. Over time I came to appreciate that the alpha and omega in a much more profound way. While I still have some belief that the universe needed a creator and the laws of science required some intelligence who thought them all up, increasingly I see the omega God as far more important. God I no longer see as much as the magician in the sky who makes the universe tick or sustains our lives. Increasingly, and possibly influenced by the French Jesuit Teilhard de Chardin, I see the omega point or destination to not only our lives but the destination point for all creation. But it's not as some high court judge in the sky, but as some expression our hopes and aspirations for a sense of personal wholeness and for the perfection of creation. Thank you for listening. Perhaps you might like to share with us in conversation particular mottos that have been a significant guiding light for your journey through life.
Breath of Creator, essence of star.